Okay. So we're at the spring kickoff meeting for growing season 2023. It always sneaks up on me because we just got over 2 feet of snow here. So although I'm sure some of you are eagerly already planting, um, my ground is still frozen. So it always sneaks up on me when everybody else is ready. Um, just to give you a little agenda, we'll do a quick review, garden overview, share some updates for any of you as well from our team. Reminders around the website, garden signs and Moodle, get our spring planting conversation going. And then we have some updates around Tempo, the air quality mission that helps fund a little bit of my tiny bit of my time to help support all of this. And then always time for Q&A. So one of our first things is I wanted to get some quick input, and feel free to either use a chat or unmute yourself depending on what you got going on, around some meetings and events for the summer for our group. Typically, we host another 4 meetings with the garden. We could potentially host a few more if there's interest. Typically around late May, early June, sometime in July, August, and September are our usual time frames. I'm always happy to get input from this group on dates, times that work best. And then I also want to get input. We have some ideas for, in addition to our conversations around activities that you all are doing and a review of like ozone observations on your plants, some other ideas that might be of interest to this group. So potential ideas that we could get speakers or share about or ask all of you to talk about our Tempo, the air quality instrument that's launching, kind of from the scientist point of view, what that is, what's happening, where it's all coming from, what the data is going to look like. Conversation around environmental justice experts, our usual plant damage, air quality, or a share fair from our student investigations. Does anybody have any kind of thoughts on timing, meetings? If there's other things you'd want to hear about from the network? As I said, feel free to either chat or unmute yourself. Good selection. Is 4 more meetings like a good frequencies, or interested in more or less? All right, getting mostly reasonable. This stuff sounds interesting. All right, and also feel free to send messages to the email. Are all meetings on Mondays? We've typically held them on Mondays. That is just times that Donica and I have found. Not necessarily. Are there days or times that don't work for this group or do work better? I know we've got kind of a national audience, so timing is always tough, finding something that works for everybody. We can certainly set a day of the week if that would be of help to folks. Mondays and Fridays I know are usually available on Donica and my's calendar, or more available. If anybody has like times that absolutely do not work, please put those in the chat box for me as well. I'll let you kind of share that as we move along here. You can absolutely do different days of the week if that's easier. Sometimes it's nice to plan and sometimes it's nice to have different days for opportunities. All right. So as a reminder, we have the website, the UCAR website. Looks like I think most of you that are on here are already registered. If you're not, be sure to do that to register your gardens and create a garden manager login. This one where Donica is more helpful because she can answer questions on the steps if anybody doesn't know how to log in and create an account. Make sure you do that so we can track your garden, make sure we know where you are, who is your known user, your person that's consistently taking data throughout the summer. As a reminder on that site, if you haven't all been using it, there's some overview information about the project, trainings for observations, and image gallery as well to kind of compare. Yes, your previous registration still works. This is just a reminder because we've got some newbies, some transitions, just a reminder around the garden. If you are already registered, you're good to go. So this is just a quick reminder around the website and opportunity to ask questions if anybody doesn't know. And as a reminder, the data gallery, the image gallery is really great. If you haven't used that before, just you're not sure if you're seeing ozone, got a number of different plants with ozone injury on them, so you can damage on them that you can see and check out. And opportunities to input all of your data or encourage your visitors to input data. As a reminder, we have signs. I think I have to share them with some of you right now, and I will get that going. That talk a little bit about ozone, tempo, the instrument, and observations. There's kind of two versions, a shorter version and a longer version. So if you want kind of a more concise, just here's how you get to data, here's what's in the garden, that's available. And then there's a kind of a slightly longer set if you want more information in your garden. They are funded by some of our tempo work and from the Smithsonian. So they're limited ability to edit them on your own site. But feel free to reach out with questions about that. They do have a link directly on them. So visitors to your garden can access the Ozone Garden website from the QR code. I'm putting them in, they are not in the Moodle yet, but they will be shortly, Erica. Like I said, they'll be in the in there. I know I need to get a number of you access to the Moodle. Just send me an email with your name and what you would like, which email you want connected to your Moodle access, and I will be doing that this week to get you all access to the conversations and some of the resources. And if there's extra folks in your center that you want to have access, there's lots of, there's additional materials in there that they can all use. So send that to me and I will get you access. And past webinars and slide sets are also in there, which can be really helpful if you're doing trainings and things like that. Okay. Additional resources that are in there, the garden setup guide, which most of you have. We also now have a volunteer guide that is editable. So it's kind of got the main things that volunteers in your garden might want, but you can delete, add as you see fit. There's specific places that we encourage you to edit in there around your garden's access rules and what those might be. If there's things that are missing when we get you that volunteer guide, they're like, hey, it'd be really great. Most people would want this. Let me know and we can make edits to that volunteer guide. Garden signs, plant IDs, activity guides. We're also creating a curated list of activity guides from other folks. I've got 2 new additional resources that might be of interest to this group. At Tempo, we've launched a new blog. I'll put that in here. And then share. So we've launched a new blog that's available. We're trying to post twice a month, kind of around the science that Tempo as an air quality instrument will be able to share to help us learn about. So that's really helpful. And then our friends at My NASA Data have just this past year put out some new lesson plans around air quality and ozone. Undo that, Erica. What did you just do? That you all might find of interest for facilitating activities in your garden. So that's going to go in here as well as a link. And I will be adding those to the Moodle shortly as links available. And as always, we'll share these slides. So here's some of our traditional links that we like to make sure everybody's aware of. Some short books for younger visitors that you might want to read in your garden. Activities from EO Kids around studying air quality. UCAR's great resource, the air quality teaching box, and some additional models and things like that. And some of our friends are building more resources, so we will have lots more coming this summer of activities and guides that you might want to engage young people in. So, on to the planting. So, for garden planting, I think more of you are now as much of experts as I am, but kind of a quick overview of some of the plants that we provide. We have coneflower and milkweed, which most of you will know at this point are perennials that should hopefully have been overwintering. So you should, depending on your site, might already have see some activity at your garden springing up if you already have them planted. If you don't, we do have, well, we only have some, like, what did I write there? We have sensitive coneflower and milkweed available. No resistant cultivars. You might find some at a garden center if you want that comparison. We only provide sensitive for coneflower and milkweed. That is by seedling. Sometimes I can try and dig up my rhizomes, but because my garden grows so much later than everybody else, that's a little harder for me to get to all of you. We are just digging out, as I mentioned, up 2 feet of snow up here. So it's a little harder for me to get you those plants from the rhizomes, but I can get you seeds as well. The milkweed is usually sensitive. I think for some folks it is less sensitive than some of the other species, Bree. We have sensitive of all 4 species, or all species of milkweed sensitive. Is that what you're asking? Also, feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. I'm just curious if, oh, sorry, a dog just fell it in. I'm wondering if the common and the showy milkweed are they just normally sensitive to ozone, or is this cultivar particularly sensitive?
Most native common milkweed are sensitive.
Okay.
There is variation, I think, depending on where it's been grown, but most are sensitive, unless you've bought it right at a store of some sort.
No, I'm just curious because I've been doing some other milkweed research and we were trying to figure this out I'm working on figuring out a cell phone spectroscopy for high school students to be able to detect stress in the milkweed, because milkweed either produce dopamine or a phenylpropanoid as part of that stress response. And right. So then I was talking to somebody about it, and we thought that ozone was actually a really interesting stressor. But we didn't know if the plant is normally sensitive or if we'd need to plant a special variety. So it's helpful to know if they're normally sensitive, then what we're currently using, because we currently mostly just plant either the common or the showy.
Yeah, so I know most common is sensitive. I'm not sure about showy, and sounds like we've got a little here about swamp milkweed. Seems not sensitive. What we provide is all from the Shenandoah Valley. That's where our seeds mostly originate from. I think that is a well-known sensitive. And so if you want to make sure it's sensitive, I can get you more seeds now. I will send them today for some of you. And we might, Donica, when she's feeling better, might be able to get some rhizomes for us. And Emmy is sharing more of her input, who is probably more of an expert. Emmy, if you want to unmute yourself. I don't know if Emmy can unmute yourself. So it is by populations. There we go.
Erica, I'll just interrupt. This is actually other Erica Larson. I'll interrupt and offer to help Donica get rhizomes sometime, since I know she's busy. We can go do it together, because then we'll take some for DU.
Perfect. That would be amazing. Yeah. And we can get you guys some postage to get it to them.
Yeah, and I just have a quick question about digging up the coneflower. We have a really healthy plant, and is it easy to divide? And
yes, yeah. So if you want to kind of, the shipping is the harder part to folks, but it is easy to divide.
okay, and then be successful replanting it and that sort of thing. Okay, that's great. We have one that's just barely coming up, and it looked like the larger one was getting chewed on a little bit. So I hope the little one, I probably need to put a fence around it. But I think that's all we need are two nice plants. Anyway, thank you.
Absolutely. Emmy, we can't hear you if you're trying to, and I'm not sure I can ask you to unmute. Let me see if I can. Where's that? Come on, Zoom.
Okay, can you hear me? This is Emmy.
Now we can, yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm on the phone, so I think I had double muted myself. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so I was saying, like, when we do surveys in wild populations looking for ozone damage, we try to look for at 30 individuals at least. And when we do that, we will see ozone damage only on a few individuals. So we think that even within a site and within a population, there are sensitive and tolerant individuals.
Interesting. That's new. I don't think our expert used to know that. So that must be, is that newer information you're finding, Emmy?
Yeah, I think in part it's because ozone is not as high as when those surveys were first started 20 years ago. So. Right.
And so one of the goals here is to help kind of figure out what that limit is, right? With Donica's work of understanding how high the ozone has to be for certain species to be sensitive. So all the seeds we provide all come from the same kind of parental lineage. But that is good to know that sometimes even within a group, you might find some non-sensitive. It does seem that that milkweed isn't quite as sensitive as some of our other plants as well. I've found folks find the potatoes can be quite sensitive, and then if anybody's has success growing the tobacco is very sensitive. The tobacco seeds that we provide. Yeah, Bree, I love the idea of having folks nerd out more on milkweed. Feel free to have offline conversations, or we can use the Moodle. You can also use the email that I send to all of you. That's a group, a Google group. You're all welcome to, in appropriations to the conversations around the ozone gardens, use that to communicate with each other, so that it is kind of a valuable kind of listserv information for all of us. All right. Definitely, if you don't buy coneflower, like unless you want a comparative for folks, like anything you buy at the store will have that kind of bred out of the species as much as possible, so it won't be ozone sensitive. All right, then we have potatoes and snap beans. I get my snap beans out shortly. Barbara, I know you have some potatoes that you can offer to our group, and I will get you a label. I think is going to be the best way to get those to other folks.
Okay, that would be great. And also, should I put my email in the chat just so people can contact me?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get you shipping labels. I'm trying to decide if it'll be easier to have you ship some out. We'll pay for the shipping from our end. So we can absolutely do that. And that's true for anybody kind of helping to get plants anywhere. We can help provide shipping for that. We also do have tobacco seeds. I know they're not always, it's harder for some sites that have young people to grow tobacco. But if you're interested, happy to share those seeds with folks.
Yes, and Erica, this is Barbara. Yeah, someone else also said that in the survey, in some of the questions, you could only answer one question. You couldn't answer more.
I fixed that.
So, okay. So yeah, we do definitely want to try the tobacco again. They grow really tall and dramatic, and it gets everyone's attention.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as long as you put a note in one of the open questions, I'll be sure.
Okay, I'll go back and revisit the questionnaire. Thanks.
Or you can just email me.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
All right.
I realized afterwards I accidentally made it a multiple choice versus a check all. I do apologize for that. But if you put anything in notes, I will make sure to read that and get you everything you asked for.
Okay.
All right. So hopefully we will be getting you all your plants. I know some of you, your growing season has already started, but I will get them out this week as long as you have shared that with me. Otherwise, it will be after the first week of April. If you have not already filled out the survey, which I will put back up in here again, in case anybody hasn't filled it out yet for your seed requests. If you get that to me in the next couple days, I will get them to you shortly. We also have here some helpful websites if you're new to the garden or you want a refresher on kind of growing these plants. As a reminder, potatoes can probably go in pretty shortly for most of you, kind of before the last frost. If you put them in a little later, you can still generally have some success. And I've planted mine later in the season, just a little slower in the growing. Snap beans, you want to wait until after the last frost. You can certainly get the seedlings going inside. If you're doing activities, is a great activity to do in your egg cartons and things like that to get them going. Coneflower and milkweed, just a reminder, if you're starting your fresh, Danica always likes to remind us that they require freezing. So if you're getting them started from seedlings, which I will share, make sure you freeze them first. Unfortunately, I had collected a nice new selection of seedlings last year, and unfortunately, a member of my family was cleaning, and I do not have a fresh batch anymore. So I have some older seedlings, so definitely make sure you plant extra since they are a little older. Hopefully they should be fine, but if you have any issues growing from them, let me know. And I'm working on getting some more seeds from Danica as well when she has a little breathing room. Okay. Other questions around gardens, growing, concerns folks had last summer, things folks have learned that they want to share with the group? Any and all plants. I actually don't know who you are because you're listed as Zoom user. Emmy, have you? Okay, Kim. Our new garden. Great. We will get you everything. Emmy, have you found any new species of, right now we provide 4 plants. Have you found anything else that you think would be, 4 in tobacco, just those that are interested, might be plants we might want to consider adding in the future to the network, plants that we can provide our sites?
So we did those surveys last summer,
Mhm.
and Daniel Winkler, who works at USGS, at one of the sumac species, but I think he found that even though the photosynthesis growth are slowed by damage or by ozone damage, that the leaves didn't show any visible ozone damage.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't think we have any plants to add that have sort of showy, visible symptoms. Hoping he'll be publishing that paper pretty soon.
Okay, great. I will say I heard from one of our garden site members in the past that they had found some cotton that was sensitive that they got from like a history day, but then found out that you have to get special permission to plant cotton in places. So we don't have that to provide. But we have a question here, and I'll kind of put this out to the group because it's potential. Someone's asking if they bought seeds of native plants from a website, would the ozone sensitivity be bred out? It could vary. I wouldn't guarantee that they're sensitive, right? As Emmy was mentioning, it can vary by population and species. It's certainly something we could provide you some of ours, and you could certainly look, right, to see if you have a sensitive species. But I wouldn't guarantee that they would be sensitive.
I would say if you're looking on purpose for plants that might be ozone sensitive, it makes sense to select things that are described as fast growing, because those tend to be a little bit more ozone sensitive.
Great input. All right. So the last big thing on our agenda today, Tempo is launching in a couple weeks. I'm still not allowed to tell you the official date, but if you Google it, you can find it. There's some, SpaceX is the launch vehicle, and so they make the announcement on the official launch date. But I'll say early April, and then you can Google it yourself, so that I'm not breaching any contracts. We're very excited. Very, very excited. I mentioned in the survey that we're going to providing some resources around launch. And when I say launch, it doesn't necessarily have to be at launch date. I know it's coming up here pretty quickly. It could be at launch date. It could be around Earth Day or Air Quality Awareness Week, which is in early May. We'll hopefully be getting data, kind of that first view data within a month or two of launch. So it could be around that. There's or if you all have other ideas of how you might celebrate Tempo launch, it doesn't have to be at actual launch date. When I say we're providing resources, it's really a celebration that Tempo is up in the sky. It can align with many other things. So we do have a 3D, we have 3D print resources for the Tempo instrument. So if you've got a 3D printer, we can get you that access so you can print your own. If everybody's interested, I'm happy to send to all of you. I've got Tempo bookmarks and stickers and kind of one-page overviews. I would happily send those to all of you with your seeds. If anybody, if you don't want them, you can just send me a message and I won't send them to you. And then I'm pulling together some more resources. I took a quick look at your interests of kind of what you want to see. I've got an outline for a kind of a one-day event that you might want to host. We have some extra activity resources going on, and I have corralled scientists related to the Tempo instrument into being, all right, Tempo resources, Maddie, absolutely. Being available for kind of virtual aspects to an event, whether that's kind of in a theater or you want to have someone zoom into a TV in your space that they can answer questions, Q&A style. They are very interested in supporting events at your sites across the country. So that is, they are eager, and I'll be putting a link in the resources available to you. We also might have some small funds for these events, working on how we might divvy that up amongst the group to encourage kind of bringing some folks in. Not huge amounts of funds, but maybe a couple $1,000s to host events with your audiences. Are there things that you'd specifically want in addition to kind of the swaggy kind of things and potential to talk to Tempo experts that I could help corral for all of you? Our friends at NASA are putting together a kind of a tempo trivia series for us. So if you wanted to host a trivia event, that will be available. We've got some short videos as well. Anything else I can provide all of you? There's going to be a tempo data demonstration online. Could you ask that again? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know the tempo data will be available remarkably quickly, but it would be nice to have like a story map or just sort of a guided data visualization so that people get a sense of what they can learn from it.
As part of for the event or as something you want just generally?
Just in general.
Okay. Yeah. So we're working on a couple things. One would be a kind of quick touch app around the tempo data, and that'll probably be a little ways out for us. Tempo data will be available in a number of NASA interfaces, and then we are hoping we'll be able to build kind of an activity data interface as well from the Smithsonian that will be a little more guided so folks know what they can actually follow through with some activities around that. So there will be lots of different data interfaces, and we can certainly kind of do some short videos or maybe a webinar around how you'll access that data. Is that helpful? Awesome. All right. And then Rachel, photographs and language that can be shared on. So absolutely, we can have that in the event, in the resource page that I'm putting together. I hope to have that finalized in the next couple of days as kind of something you can have, and then we'll work on the funding. There'll be a folder, a Google folder that I'll share with all of you to access. And it has some photos and videos already, and I'll make sure to add some language and things as well. All right. Other questions, comments, things folks want to share?
Sorry, this event, is this on the day of the launch?
So there will be NASA coverage on the day of the launch leading up to it. So launch is going to be in the middle of the night. So I don't expect anybody to do live events like that. There will be NASA coverage leading up to the event on live NASA TV and that such. What I'm suggesting is for launches that events that you might want to host, it does not have to be on the day of the event. It can be around other things. We're really looking for folks to just share the excitement of tempo with us and whatever that might look like at your site. So it could be kind of expanding an Earth Day event that you're already doing. Like I said, it could be having, so I can get the experts for whenever, not just the right around launch time.
Great. And I saw there was a mention of 3D printing files, I think, in
Yes.
the survey. Is that going to be in the resources or?
Yes. Yes. We got the 3D printed file ready. So it is in the resources available.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Does anyone have the experience of having printed a tempo model yet?
So our folks, our Langley friends have printed them. I have a photo of one somewhere. I have not printed it. They've made it relatively simple, I think. I'm not a 3D printing expert though, so I cannot tell you that. It didn't look like it was too many pieces, if that's helpful. But they've printed a handful of them. And it's just of the instrument, not the whole satellite that the instrument will sit on. All right, other questions around the gardens, around things that you all need? Well, I will remind you all that you are welcome to use the Google group to communicate with one another. share questions and things like that, as well as the Moodle. And we look forward to having an exciting growing season with everyone. Oh, and we'll be in touch about some potential expansions of the Ozone Garden Network and resources we'll be able to provide. We have some new resources coming in. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.